Hey everybody, and welcome back to another book review. So I just finished a third book by this author. I did not process I was reading the same author. I knew about one other book that I had read, but this is actually the third one that I've read from this author, Katherine Reay. And this book is called The London House. As we know, I'm a huge fan of World War II stuff, so I'm always drawn to stories that take place in that time period, especially when they're based in Britain and stuff. So this story, The London House, is about it's done in two kind of parallel worlds. So it's about Caroline, who is a late 20s woman who's just kind of really struggling with life because of her past family drama. Her younger sister was killed and such, and she gets reconnected with an old college friend, and he is writing a story about her family, and he's trying to get, kind of a say on hey, I want you guys to have kind of a comment on this book and stuff. And so then he basically forces her to uncover some dark family secrets, and in the process she discovers that her great aunt was actually a spy in World War II. And so it's a really fun story. I again, like I said, I've read other books by this author, so this is not a new thing in terms of the author's style, and I do really like her style of writing and the way that she does things. But I had heard that it was a good book, and so I was like, I'll just throw it on my list, and just got into it. And then I was like, wait a second, I've read some of her other books. But yeah, it was a really good book. Really liked it. 5 out of 5. It flows really well. It had a lot of connective pieces. I think pieces that a lot of people in their late 20s and early 30s kind of are reconciling within themselves and working on. And so I thought that was fun to kind of see that from a different angle now that I'm a little bit older. And I think if I did have a complaint, I do wish that it wasn't as much done through letters and journal entries, because I felt like it was trying to force the characters to speak like an author, and that just doesn't seem natural. The great aunt is a twin, actually, to the main character's grandmother. So the grandmother was Margaret, or Margot as they call her in the story, and the great aunt was Caroline, which the main character is named after, but they called her Caro. And they communicate via letters for the most part, and then there's also Margaret's diary, and it was like she was writing what was going on, which makes sense, but as a person who's writing in their diary, I just don't think a person would write it so much like an author. So if I had a complaint, it would be that. But outside of that, I mean, just really good. I love when authors are just good at their jobs, but can really bring you into the world of something that is so very familiar. Like I said, I love World War II, so there's a lot of World War II stuff out there, and especially after documents and things become declassified and new discoveries are made as history is changing, you just find out new information. And I think that's one of the big things that I really took away from the story, is that the main character's old college friend Matt, he talks about how history is always changing, and we're always discovering new things that help us further understand what happened in the past, but also can help us reevaluate the past. And we are not fully defined by our history, but what we do with that information in the present and how we move forward in the future. Just really, good reminders, I think, with the state that our world is in. We've learned a lot from history, and we're still continuing to learn from history. And I think the question is, what do we do with that information? We shouldn't necessarily forget it, because if we forget, people say, we're doomed to repeat, and not necessarily repeat in terms of the exact same thing's going to happen, but you know, you see patterns and you see similarities a lot of times all over the world. And so it's like, you know, we tried this before. Didn't work the first time. What makes you think it's going to work the second time? I think one of my favorite historic kind of anecdotes is the American Revolution, and then the War of 1812 in America, American history. And I know I have some folks that follow that are not American, so yeah, you get a history lesson. But when I'm teaching those two, I'm always like, you know, it's like Britain tried this one time with the American Revolution and it didn't work. And so then they're like, we're gonna try again with the War of 1812. And then they had like a third thought about like trying again when the American Civil War happens. Maybe we can, no, you've tried it twice, it didn't work, so leave it alone. And this is definitely a book that kind of reminds you that. He's like, we tried this. It didn't work. Leave it alone. But I do also think that it's important to recognize our family history and how generational trauma is developed and how it occurs. I think people forget that we pass on a lot to the next generations. And some of it is just, you know, you pass on knowledge, pass on things that are important to remember. But I think we can also do a disservice by only focusing on one aspect or one area of history. I think that's, personally, I think that's where American history has gotten it wrong, because it's always been taught, you know, white, black, and there's gaps in the middle, right? You know, it's like, oh, you know, all black people were enslaved. They weren't. You know, at varying points in early American history, and then Civil War happens, all the black people are free, and then there's like nothing until you hit like Jim Crow and segregation and then Civil Rights Movement. And you have this like missed section. I think the last book, The Black Elite, that I read really kind of hit on that. And so just really being reminded of that in this book as well, I just think is so very important. But yeah, loved it. Really loved the book. I really liked, you know, just that reminder of don't allow your family's history or what you think is your family's history to control what you do, where you go, instead of using it to, you know, be like, you know, this is what happened and how do we become better? How do we become closer? How do we develop a healthy, loving family from our trauma? It's just a really good book. So yeah, there you have it. Thank you everybody, as always, for watching these reviews. I'm really enjoying working my way through the list of past suggestions. And again, I am terribly sorry that I have not gotten to a lot of the books that have been recommended. But I am working on it as best I can. So I do look forward to continuing. Yeah, it's awesome to share my love of books with everybody. So thank you again for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you so feel led to move. And I will see you in the next book review. Bye.